Good evening. This video is going to be about hypermobility. Have you been diagnosed by have you been told that you're hypermobile? You have excessive range of motion in your joints, double jointed, you're too flexible. Have you been told that you're having pain because you're hypermobile and you need to do strengthening? And let's discuss hypermobility and whether to which extent it is true, if it is true or not. Let's not call it a myth, but let's understand where hypermobility, the concept of hypermobility came from. So again, hypermobility denotes to the fact that the athlete is too flexible, double jointed. That a flexible female athlete will just extend her elbow and it'll go kind of past 180 degrees. She'll extend her knee, it'll go past 180. It'll lock backwards as though. And the concept of hypermobility came with the establishment of standard range of motion, or what's called normal range of motion. There's the science in sports physical therapy called goniometry. Gonio means angle, metry, the science of angular measurements. So the science of angular measurements allows me to identify how much internal rotation and external rotation should, let's say, the athlete experience. That's 0, 70 degrees internal rotation and 90 degrees external rotation is standard normal range of motion. I studied this myself roughly 15 years ago at a school called National Academy of Sports Medicine as part of my integrated flexibility coursework. Now the coursework is called corrective exercise. Phenomenal coursework, and NASM is one of the few handful of educational and research institutions that study and apply, further develop and teach the science of functional biomechanics. So I learned the standard range of motions and the application of the goniometer to measure. I should actually put a picture of that. Somewhere here I'll put a picture. And over the years though, roughly 5 years in, I realized that this concept of standard range of motions really does not make sense. And here's how that came about. I was working with ballroom dancers almost exclusively. After the first 2 years of doing this work for two different organizations, I started doing the work on my own. I got referred to dancers, and among ballroom dancers there were a lot of very flexible athletes. I mean, men as well as women, but some women were really flexible. And when I would say that I am a flexibility specialist, and in the context of biomechanics, and these women would see me do all the stretches for my clients, they would say, "How are you going to help me, Paulo? I am hypermobile. My physical therapist told me I am hypermobile, and look at how flexible I am. I can do all these things, but I'm still having the back pain, I'm still having the hip pain, I'm still having the shoulder pain." This took some experimentation, which I sometimes call pushing the envelope. The client has already tried everything, they have not had that full breakthrough. So we would experiment and see what's going to give us the next level of results. I discovered that the concept of hypermobility did not make sense. And over the years, another 4 more years on top of that, perhaps the 8th year, I coined the term, 8th year of me doing the work, I coined the term innate flexibility instead. Okay, so let me explain innate flexibility. Innate means, you can say God-given, genetically predisposed to, or natural flexibility. So our innate flexibility actually ranges quite far above and below that standard normal range of motion. We, in actuality, cannot compare the incredibly flexible ballroom ballet dancer with a construction worker. Think of a construction worker, a lot of testosterone, strong joints, the joints do not hyperextend, the muscles are incredibly strong. Flexibility is very far from this guy. You don't think flexible when you look at this guy, you think tremendous strength. Now, this does not actually, it isn't our occupation that decides our flexibility, of course, it is actually our genetics. Over these 15 years of having had few hundred clients that I've worked with consistently, probably 5-6 clients are at the very lower end, I should say the tightest end of that spectrum of flexibility. 5-6 clients they have such strong muscles. A little bit of range of motion is good for them. But it's possible to measure their innate flexibility as well as the innate flexibility of the ballerina, of the ballroom dancer, of the gymnast, or just the person who's very flexible, period. And here's how I came to define innate flexibility. Actually, I don't think it was exactly me. I believe the definition came to me. Where from, we're all yet to discover. Thank you, God, if it was from the divine. And I discovered innate flexibility simply to be the near absence of pain at end range of motion. So near absence of pain at end range of motion. Take your thumb joint, the distal joint of your thumb, the very tip joint. Bend that guy. Do you feel much pain? No. So when you bend that joint, there is no pain. Bend it up, again, there is no pain. There is almost no pain. When you bend your finger joints, there is almost no pain unless you press a lot. There's almost no pain, full range of motion, almost. Now compare that, let's say, to our wrist. Go ahead and make a fist. Keep this relaxed and bend it down with the other hand. See how tight it is on the top? Well, I have this range of motion and almost no pain because I've been doing this stretch a lot. Do another stretch. Put your arm behind you and bring the elbow forward. See how painful that is? It is not near absence of pain at the range of motion. It's severe pain. And we're very far from the range of motion. Okay. You don't need to think of the range of motion. It's near absence of pain at end of the range. That's innate flexibility. So, when we come back to our innate flexibility, we have almost no pain at the end of that range of motion. The tighter we get compared to our innate flexibility, the more painful that specific joint gets. Case in point, the hypermobile dancer will come in, her entire body is hypermobile. Everything, the shoulders are very flexible, her elbows, but that hip specifically is having pain at end range of motion. She'll do a certain move, she'll feel a pinch, she will feel that tighter than the other hip. Okay. We cannot get the rest of her body tight to match this tension. We actually can, but that would prematurely age her. Because aging, biomechanically speaking, musculoskeletally speaking, is the shortening of our muscle and tendon and ligament tissues and the compression of our joints. So we don't want to get her entire body tight so as to match this hip tension. The entire body is very flexible. It's pain-free. She moves her shoulder, she has no pain. She locks her elbow, she has no pain. She bends her wrist, there is no pain. This hip is really great. She can have the full range of motion. But this one, when she bends, she feels pain. There's clicking. Okay. So what we want to do is identify the overall flexibility of the individual and just work on the areas that are relatively tighter until they're fully loose. Can we ever get too flexible? No, we cannot get too flexible. Now, if we just keep stretching and releasing the muscles and not strengthen them, the muscles can get weak. We want to strengthen them as well. But that's a separate issue. If there is an injury, we want to regain that innate flexibility, match our innate flexibility with all of our joints and the joints that are tight as well, and then gain the strength throughout our body, the core strength. These are different topics. But no, there's nothing wrong with the athlete. The athlete is not hypermobile in the sense that something is wrong with their body. They're too flexible. No, they're not. That is their innate flexibility, and their innate flexibility is very high, rather, outside the norm, the standard, but that's totally okay. That's correct for them. The pain is not in their head. They are truly experiencing the pain, because when we get hands-on, we will feel that those tissues are tighter than the rest of her body. Those joints are tighter in range of motion, and the tissues are more painful than the rest. The pain is not in our head. We're not going crazy. The pain is real. We just need to work all of the tight muscles and joints back to our innate flexibility. Match the overall natural flexibility that we were born for, predisposed to throughout our entire body. And that's it. You will see a lot of my clients very flexible on the table. I'll touch on the concept of hypermobility and innate flexibility instead later in the future. But just go ahead and experiment with this with yourselves. And watch the videos, do the exercises. Give me comments, guys. Help me be more helpful to you. What questions do you have for me to answer? Send me your questions and I will make the videos. I will do my best to respond to your comments and to your requests. Thank you, and give me thumbs up and share this with people who are suffering with pain and they're told they're hypermobile and they think it's wrong. And people need to know that there is nothing wrong with hypermobility. They're just very flexible, and that is not wrong.